Hello beauties, I hope you're doing fabulous. I'm back with another to buy or not to buy. Normally in these videos I talk about new releases, and I've started talking about why we don't need any of these and why we can dupe most of what's releasing. So let's get started. And in this video I'm going to do something I've never done before. Well, I have done it in my channel, but I've never done it in a to buy or not to buy. And that is that I have duped a palette that and you all know that I've duped this palette, and that is the StarGazer palette. I think that was the name, from Nomad, and I'm gonna do my look with this dupe. I haven't yet talked about which shades I'm using as dupes, but that video is gonna come up. And if you all want to see me do more looks with this palette, write it in the comments below and I can do that. But without too much conversation, let's get started. Also, as always, I have coffee because we need that. We know. I have some Valentine's flowers in the background. I figured that's gonna make things look nicer. We are also doing candle. Today is peppermint frost because it's insanely cold in Austin right now, and it gives me the winter vibes. It's like 40 degrees right now. But just let's talk about this one first, because I'm kind of like, what's going on with brands? We all know that Klarity Kosmetics sort of sneak peeked their Dead Roses. Is it Dead Roses or Deadly Roses palette some weeks ago? And the palette released like 3 days after Valentine's Day. I mean, I feel like this palette should have released for Valentine's Day. The color story though will go with the spring, but anything that has rose in it that's dropping this time of the year tells me this should have been for Valentine's Day. Is it just me? Let me know what you all think. They're also releasing 2 bundles with this, which is also very Valentine's-y. Chocolate covered strawberries and cuffed. Again, both give me the Valentine's vibe. Because Valentine's Day has passed, I'm no longer in the mood to talk about Valentine's stuff because I've posted enough Valentine's related videos. But I'd like to hear from you all. What do you think about these releases that are Valentine's Day releases but are releasing now? Another one is this one, Garden of Love, which I believe released yesterday. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Shine by SD. And this one is in collaboration with Glam Smitty. And Glam Smitty has been having a lot of collaborations this year. Good for her. Did she have another collaboration with Shine by SD? I think she did earlier in the year. And I mean, these are nice, but as I mentioned, I don't want to talk about Valentine's Day anymore. And I am on a no buy. If you're new to my channel, I'll put the no buy video in the description below. Yeah, I'm on a no buy. I talk about the details in that video if you're curious. So not buying and not even duping, because this palette is literally a palette of singles that are not meant to really be used in a look. These kinds of releases are just to use with other shades and make your own kind of creation. Beauties, let's talk about this one. I believe this is a new makeup brand. I saw someone post about it who I believe received this in PR. Palette $60. I don't really see these as exciting. It's 50% neutral. It also has a matte black. Why does it need to have a matte black? It doesn't. It does not. So moving on. Also, I have a lot of greens. I have a lot of beautiful greens. I have a lot of beautiful green palettes. And every time I see a palette that's mostly greens or that has greens that catch my eyes, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh yeah, I should start using my green palettes. And that is kind of what I'm thinking. Beauties, there are a few things that I'm excited about. So although I'm saying no to a lot of these, that's not going to be what you're going to hear about everything. Some of these I'm like, do I want to pick this up after my no buy? So we're going to get to those. One of them is this one. So Fantasy Cosmetica, as they do always, announced something like 5 days ago, and then they launched it in 2 days. And this is called the Wizard palette. Now, I do believe that I can dupe this, but Fantasy Cosmetica is a relatively favorite brand, and I have liked their quality beauties. Their Rogue palette was one of my favorites, if not my top favorite palette from last year. Their pans are now magnetic, so I have used some of their pans in other custom-made palettes. And that is part of the reason why I'm like, there are huge possibilities. I also picked up a lot of their perfumes. Now, I'm not in the market anymore for perfumes, and I'm not going to do that. But this is definitely one of those palettes that I could see myself pick up after my no buy is over. The few colors that are catching my eyes are the pastel yellow, if it really is that pigmented. I want to see it. Also, that center yellow shade. I don't think I have anything like that in my collection. I probably need to see some life swatches online, and I know some people have already reviewed this. Also, the color next to it, so pretty much that middle row. And of course, I'm also always in the market for dark blues, because dark blues are not easy to create, and you all have seen on camera that a lot of times they get patchy on me. So I'm always trying to find new dark blues. The only thing that I can't really understand in these photos is that the two dark blues look way too similar. Is one of them purple? If you have purchased this and have any particular opinions about it, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Maybe you can dissuade me. Also, beauties, I have to mention that I am going to be out of the country for a couple of weeks starting this upcoming Monday, and I might have to do some modifications to my no buy, because I feel like you all want to see makeup in the country I'm going to. You do. You do. You might not say it, but I think you do. And I also want to sort of try things, and this is sort of a unique opportunity. It was not planned. It just kind of happened. So I'll make another video about it and we can talk about it. But the reason I mention that is, well, I'm clearly not going to order anything right now because I'm on a no buy, but also I wouldn't have ordered anything because it's going to take time for it to get to me and I'm not going to be around. So moving on, but before we continue, let me quickly begin doing the look with this MAC Painterly. This is sort of my staple primer. Do you all want to see what kind of makeup I take on a trip with me? I usually pack very, very, very light, or I try to. So you all might be surprised by the amount of makeup I take because it's usually like one palette. But if you all are curious, let me know. I'm wondering if this time I'm going to do something different and take some custom-made palettes with me. We'll see. We'll talk about it. This one caught my attention. It's from Diva Beauty. I remember Diva Beauty releasing something else in the past, but I couldn't exactly remember what it was. But the reason I was like, let's talk about it is because it's very close to this palette, not the dupe. I mean the original palette from Nomad. And I was like, oh, interesting. This color story is very, very similar. Not interested because I already duped the other palette, so I'm not going to go pick up a palette that's a dupe of it. This one only has sort of 3 or 4 neutral colors as well, which are not my thing. Also, that middle color is a glitter pan, and you all know I'm not a fan of those anyway. Also, the palette's $65. No, we're not doing this. That's insane. Beauties, let's talk about this one. Ansley Rain has already sneak peeked their next palette. For the ones of you who ordered Cold Moon, have you received your orders yet? Because I remember when I did the video duping Cold Moon palette, on their website it said that the pre-order for Cold Moon was like 11 weeks, which means some people have not received that. And in fact, they wouldn't receive that palette until in the middle of spring, like April. And they're already sneak peeking new things? No, we're not doing this. Are you for real? I mean, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, but come on, people. And without even knowing what the palette's gonna look like, I can guarantee you I can dupe it for you all. And in fact, you know what? I might be on the trip when this releases, but I will dupe it for you all when I'm back. Okay, let's get started. I have a whole lot of ColourPop brushes here with me, and we're going to use them. These are from their different brush sets that I've purchased over the years. Contrary to what you're seeing in the palette, I'm going to try to do something a little more nudie, a little more conservative, a little more toned down. The first brush I'm using is E17, and I'm going to go into this one, into my crease. And beauties, while I'm doing that, let's talk about this one that dropped from Huda Beauty. Now, these are very neutral, so I'm not gonna pick any of them up, but I love Huda, so I am always excited when she's releasing things. I believe these are already available for $32 each. Now, of course, as I always say, you don't need these. I can guarantee you, you have these colors in your collection. Now, wanting to try a new formula is a whole other conversation, and I think this is a new formula. I think this is sort of a cream to powder kind of a formula. So I would be curious at some point in the future, maybe if they release something colorful, to test it, but absolutely not right now. I have enough makeup and I do not need, and neither do you. Beauties, I don't really talk about blushes because I feel like I have enough. I saw this, and honestly, I think the colors are so gorgeous. And as much as I like and enjoy blush sticks, I still don't understand, when did $20 for a blush stick, like a single blush stick, become a normal price? Do I even want to talk about this? I don't. I don't even want to talk about this. This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen. Moving on. Beauties, Nomad is sneak peeking something that's gonna launch in March. And I know already I'm probably not picking it up. I am gonna be on a no buy, and I am just through with all these back-to-back launches. Like I haven't even had time to use this, and I'm already seeing new launches. That's just not gonna happen. We are losing that momentum to feel excited about something that's launching, because brands are now announcing and then launching a week later, and then they're launching another thing like 3 weeks later. No, I'm just tired of this. I'm having decision fatigue and mental fatigue of this. I'm going to pick a packing brush. This is E25, and I'm going to go into this one. And this is a cool tone, dark purple. I'm going to put it in my outer V, and then I'm gonna bring this same color under my lower lash line. I think this shade that I picked is a Terramones matte, so it does have some fall off. Now with a fluffier brush, I'm just blending this out. This release, which is a collab between NBA Cosmetics and Basket Case Beauty. I think this is released by the time I post this video, because it's releasing tomorrow from the day I'm filming. It's called Moonlit Marsh. And beauties, with NBA Cosmetics, you can use an affiliate code to get discounts. I know I can dupe this palette. This palette actually caught my attention because this kind of a grungy color story is my type of thing, but I have all of these shades as singles, and honestly even in other palettes. Also, I have had hit and miss experience with NBA Cosmetics. I have a video swatching all the singles that I have from them. I've never tried their palettes, so their palettes might be different, but I'm passing. Also, I'm gonna no buy. Interesting color story, but it's not for me. Now NBA Cosmetics is a pretty affordable brand, but I believe they are third-party manufactured. I believe one of the influencers that I watch that has worked with them mentioned in her video that they were third-party manufactured, so I'm just quoting that. I don't know for a fact. Now, beauties, some of you have asked me what is wrong with being third-party manufactured. There's nothing wrong with being third-party manufactured. The concern that people have when they're talking about a brand being third-party manufactured is that the same lab that is being used by one brand that's third-party manufactured is obviously being used by other brands as well. That's the concept of being third-party manufactured. But there's huge price discrepancy between different brands. And one thing a lot of us who have a gigantic collection are experiencing is that we are seeing dupes in the different palettes we're buying from different brands. Because what's happening on the other side of this is that a brand looks at a catalog and says, I want these colors in this palette. Another brand that's using that same manufacturing lab might be using some of the same shades for another palette. Now, if I'm buying both of those palettes, I essentially have redundancies, like exact dupes. in my collection, and I have started seeing that. Now, they might not even be exact dupes, but sometimes they are so close that I'm like, to me, it doesn't make a difference. And if I put these on my eyes, the marginal difference of what it looks like from one brand to another brand, if I use the two different brands on my eyes, is minute. Nobody can see the difference between those different colors from an arm's length. I hope that removes some confusions. We can definitely talk about it more in details, but that's part of the reason why when I look at a third-party manufactured brand and it reminds me of other palettes that I have that I know are from brands that are third-party manufactured, I'm like, do I want to take the risk of buying this palette and then exactly duping some of the shades that I have? Now, there are other issues with third-party manufacturing that goes beyond just the concept of third-party manufacturing that people have seen with brands, like brands being dishonest about whether they're third-party manufactured. That's a completely different concept. I don't want to get into that detail. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the general concept of third-party manufacturing and the logistics of what it means to be third-party manufactured and what are some of the general issues you can have. Beauties, let's talk about this one. And this was also one of those things that we heard today that it's releasing in 2 days. Legendary Diversa Series Part 2. If you all remember, this series released end of 2021. The Part 1 of this series, which was a collab between Odin's Eye, Tina from Fancy Face, Judy, and Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. These palettes are around $40 each. Now, I believe Odin's Eye is pretty affordably priced, but I personally did not have a good experience with their palettes that I've tried from them, and at this point I'm not in the market for them. I definitely like the color story of some of these. For example, I really like the color story of the one Tina created, Earthwood. I probably don't have the time before I leave, but I really want to dupe this palette. The other one that I liked is the one Annette created, Mighty Monster. Judy's one is pretty, but it's a little too pastel for me. Those colors are not going to look or show up on me. Like, I think this would have been a good release before Chinese New Year, the Dragon, Spring Dragon palette. Anyway, these have released and I believe they're already available. But honestly, other than the color story that I think is kind of unique or different, I don't see anything else that makes me think I need this palette. Like, there's no special shade. In general, I don't believe I've seen special shades from Odin's Eye. But again, I haven't tried Odin's Eye extensively. Another thing is that I found Odin's Eye's shimmers thin and very hard pressed. And their mattes were not very good. They were just not good. But I know a lot of people swear by Odin's Eye, so this might be working on somebody, but it's not. I don't think it's going to work on me, and I can dupe these, and I've talked about it enough. Moving on. Okay, I'm going to pick this tiny one, E28, and I'm going to go into this one, and I'm blending out my lower lash line with it. Again, beauties, I want something that is kind of neutral, but you could do the Barbie pink. You could also do the lighter pink depending on what kind of look you are going for. This next thing that I'm going to talk about, beauties, I'm kind of curious about, and that is Adept's next release. Now, I also can't believe that they have already revealed their next palette because they just released something. But I'm wondering if this is going to be a face palette and not an eyeshadow palette, although I personally kind of wish it's an eyeshadow palette. Now, I have duped, and I have here my dupe of Adept's, the palette that just released, Flying Fiddles, and I feel like by the time I come back from my trip, all of that's going to be old news. Like, nobody cares to hear about that old palette because this one might have released. It seems like this one is going to be more colorful, and they're saying it's going to be available in the spring, and judging by the cover, I'm going to sort of manifest something that has pinks. Some of the things we haven't seen from Adept in any of their palettes, right? Teals, pinks, purples, like their cover. And you know what? That's my color story. So as much as I like to tell you all you don't need this, I will have weak knees if that's the case. Let's talk about this one, beauties, because this also seems to me like something that should have revealed for Valentine's Day. Pastel Roses UK Rose Delight palette. I mean, it's a nice palette, not for me. The only thing I kind of find interesting are those shimmers, because I'm curious to know what they really swatch like. But the lighter colors are too light. It's almost $50. Also, Pastel Roses UK has to come from England. Yeah, not my type of thing, and I feel like they're a little late for Valentine's Day. But hey, Pastel Roses UK is a brand I'm curious to try from at some point, because they do interesting singles, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. And beauties, let's be honest, you don't need this. You probably have a dupe of it already. Okay, beauties, I'm on Makeup on Your Radar's Instagram channel. The link to her channel is in the description box below, her Instagram channel. And she also talks a lot about nails. Beauties, those are the ones that are just getting me. So let's talk about a few of those. Hollow Taco's release for, I think this was their Valentine's release. What's the name of this? And beauties, I spent hours online watching swatch of nail videos. So this is, I don't know what the name of this collection is. Mars collection? I think this is the Surface of Mars collection. And the color that just has me drooling is that last one, black, that has the shifts of red. Oh, I want that color. I can guarantee you, beauties, that this year we're going to get more into nails. I'm going to sort of reduce the budget for makeup and increase the budget for nails. I can probably justify this by saying that the expiration date for nail polish is much longer. I have nail polish that I've purchased 20 years ago, and they still work. And you can revive them. But let's also talk about this one, Mooncat. Season of Persephone. I saw multiple video reviews of this. Now this one is pretty, particularly the one that is green with a shift of pink, looks very nice. But I've seen swatches of this, and in swatch it's not as nice as in just this image. So not doing that. Also, these are expensive nail polishes. They're not like $3 a polish. So unless it's absolutely what I want, we're not dropping a dime on it. Let's talk about this one. Ofra released something on Valentine's Day that is a very Valentine's-y release. Now, I don't know why they would release something on Valentine's Day for Valentine's Day, because I feel like they should release it before Valentine's Day. But then objectively, it's nice. But judging by the fact that I have had Ofra eyeshadow palettes and highlighters and a lot of things that I don't really use as often, this is totally a pass, and totally in the I can dupe and I will dupe if I feel like it bucket. The only thing I'm interested in from Ofra, if anything, are the long-lasting liquid, God, that's a tongue twister, long-lasting liquid lips, because they go really well with my lips. I like them. I have chronic dry lips, and they are very cushiony and creamy, and it feels really nice on the lips. They don't dry my lips. But I don't need any of this. I don't even really need the lipsticks. And I can guarantee you also have exactly these colors in your collection. If you've ever purchased anything for Valentine's Day, you have these. Let's talk about this one, because this is beautiful, and I Playing in Makeup by Yolanda. I've talked about it before, because a lot of times they have very colorful palettes. It's just that this palette could be very easily a 12 pan. Like, this is way too redundant. And this one also launched on Valentine's Day. What's going on with brands launching things on Valentine's Day for Valentine's Day? Like, these should release January or even earlier, so that people have time to purchase and buy them before Valentine's Day. It's old news already. Like, nobody cares about these Valentine's Day releases at this point. Another Valentine's Day release that I believe also kind of released on Valentine's Day or around Valentine's Day is this one from Notoriously Morbid. Weird Vibes. I like to try Notoriously Morbid, and let's be honest, that yellow top shade looks beautiful. But hey, I have all of these colors. Why am I talking myself into palettes? I have these colors. I can dupe this. I'm not going to go buy a palette for just one shade. Moving on. Let's talk about this one, because this was one of the things that I was very excited to see revealed. Dia Veron's Garden of Gloom. And I'm gonna tell you all my honest opinion. I feel like they have duped a little bit of their last palette. So this is their last palette, and I'm already seeing some dupes, right? You have something between orange and coral, you have teal, you have, you know, some white shimmers, orange, greens. There are enough similar shades that when I saw this, I was like, I was expecting kind of a different color story. I was expecting some dark reds, I don't know, dark purples, things like that. Similar to the photo of the cover of the palette. So at this point, it's something I don't really think it is for me. Now, another thing is I'm on a no-buy, and even if I wanted to pick this palette up, it would have been after my no-buy, but I think she mentioned that unless there's huge demand for it, she's not going to order more. I think there's just going to be one restock. So not the biggest deal. I continue to follow Diva and see what they have in the future. It's a brand that I am pretty impressed with, and I like to see what they have. I might even consider taking this one on the trip. Let me finish the look. I'm gonna use some base booster here, and I'm debating between these two colors. So this one would really go, but I think this is gonna make it a very different look. So let's go with the yellow. Oh, I love this. It is the shiniest yellow goldy color that I've ever seen. Okay, the look is done. I used a little bit of Laguna Beach from Ofra. We were just talking about Ofra on my lips. Beauties, let's talk about these releases from Glam Shop, and then we can end the video. And some of these might not even be new releases, like this one, Kuyat Paprosi, and this, I don't know what the English name would be. I'm on their English site and there's no name in English. Seems like it's already on a discount. Beautiful palette. Now, I love Glam Shop quality, both mattes and shimmers. I have videos swatching their different palettes that I have, different singles that I have, which is why I even want to talk about them. Another thing is Glam Shop usually offers the colors in their palettes as singles as well. But let's be honest, I probably have all of these colors and I probably don't need them. Let's also talk about this one, which is their Valentine's Day release. This gigantic collection with multiple 5-pan palettes, mirrors, etc. I consider Glam Shop a pretty reasonably priced brand, which is why I even talk about them. Now, I have no need for any of these. I feel like all of these have been done before. I have all of these probably multiple times in my collection, or that I don't even use some of these, but it's available. And let's be honest, some of these palettes are cute, like the 5-pan with the pink, very extreme pink, and it's 13.5 euros. Like 14-ish euros is almost like $16-17. That's a great price, particularly that I consider Glam Shop quality pretty good. So for the quality, that's a great price. Because let's be honest, half of the brands we talked about for the same thing, they would charge you $50. Now, you don't need any of these if you have these. I'm just sort of giving options. Another thing is that if you're ordering from Glam Shop, it's coming from Poland, and you have to pay very high price for shipping. So it always makes more sense to buy multiple things. And beauties, that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Write to me below what palette you really want, but you're not gonna buy. Thanks as always. I love you all. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and watched it this long. Have an amazing day, and until next time, bye.